What do you think would happen if one day you just decided to walk away? I'm not talking about physically disappearing, but about disconnecting, letting go of those invisible ties that bind you to others. Have you ever wondered what might happen if you chose to step back? Not because you're angry or resentful, but simply because you need time for yourself? Most people don't get it, but distance has a strange, almost unsettling power. When you move out of someone's orbit, it's like breaking a delicate balance. It's not just about them missing you. It's deeper than that. It's something darker, something that touches the core of who they are. When you step away, you leave a void, and voids are uncomfortable. Not because of what's missing, but because of what they reveal. Here's the interesting part. Your absence doesn't hurt because of who you were to them. It hurts because of what they can no longer project onto you. Let's be honest. People don't see you for who you really are. They see you as they need you to be. You're like a mirror where they reflect their insecurities, their hidden desires, their expectations. When you step away, they're not just left with the space you left behind. They're left staring at the broken mirror that used to reflect their own image. Think about it. How many times have you been told you're important, that they need you, that they can't do this or that without you? But deep down, isn't it strange how those words always seem to be more about them than about you? When you distance yourself, you shatter that illusion. And then, they start feeling things they can't explain. Discomfort, anger, guilt, fear. But most of all, they're left with a question they're too afraid to ask. What's left of me if you're no longer there? It's unsettling, isn't it? To think that someone might depend on you, not because they love you or feel a genuine connection, but because you're the support for something they don't want to face in themselves. And yet, that's the reality of so many relationships. We're mirrors, but we're also crutches. When you decide to let go, when you step away, you force others to wobble. You make them face a truth they've been avoiding. Their emotional dependence wasn't on you, but on the idea of you. And then comes the real mystery. What do they actually feel when you're gone? Some will say sadness. Others will say disappointment. Some might even feel resentment. But the truth is, they don't really know. The void you leave doesn't have a shape. It's not a pain they can name or a wound they can heal. It's something deeper, something raw. It's the echo of what they never wanted to admit. What happens in their minds when you leave? What shadows do you awaken in them? And why does your decision to step away hold so much power? Why does it create such chaos in their souls? Today, we're not going to talk about the easy stuff. We're not staying on the surface. We're going to dig into what really happens when you step away, what others feel, what they don't dare to say, what they try to hide. And most importantly, why something as simple as stepping away can expose the darkest corners of their psychology. This won't be a comfortable journey. There are no easy answers here, no truths that won't make you uneasy. This is a journey into the depths of human emotions, into the places most people prefer to avoid. But if you're here, it's because something inside you already knows. Stepping away doesn't just change your life. It shakes the world of those who don't know how to exist without you. And that's the mystery we're going to unravel. When you step away, something interesting happens. People start creating a story about you. But that story isn't about who you really are. It's about who you were in their lives, and more importantly, what they lose when you're gone. It's like they try to fill the void with versions of you that you wouldn't even recognize. They analyze you from a distance, looking for clues, patterns, anything to explain why you left. But here's the thing. They're not really trying to understand you. They're trying to justify themselves. Your absence forces them to ask a question they never wanted to face. How much of my emotional stability depended on this person? And for many, that question is unbearable. Because while they like to think of themselves as strong, independent, and self-sufficient, your departure forces them to admit something deeply uncomfortable. They depended on you more than they were willing to admit. And then, something shifts. They start changing how they see you, not because you've changed, but because they need to create a story about your departure that they can live with. Some will idealize you, as if your absence makes you more valuable than you ever were. Others will demonize you, convincing themselves that you're leaving was selfish or even a betrayal. Because deep down, it's easier to blame you than to admit that your decision shook them to their core. What's fascinating is how differently people react, depending on what you meant to them. For some, your absence is like an open wound. For others, it's a wound they thought had healed, but your distance reopens it. And for a few, it's a mirror that reflects their greatest fear: being alone with themselves. This is where things get really complicated. It's not just about how they react, it's about how those reactions change over time. At first, there might be anger or confusion, but as time goes on, your absence becomes more abstract. They start to wonder if they ever really knew you, or if they were just projecting what they wanted to see onto you. And that doubt can eat away at them, because your departure isn't just physical. It's symbolic. It represents a change in a dynamic they couldn't control. And losing control always creates anxiety. The irony is that many people don't even understand why your decision affects them so much. In their minds, you weren't that important. You didn't take up that much space. But your absence reveals the truth. You were more significant than they were willing to admit. It's like your absence shines a light on the cracks in their emotional foundation, the ones they've been trying to hide. And what they feel isn't really about you. It's about what your distance forces them to confront. There's something deeply unsettling about how stepping away can expose the truth about the relationships you leave behind. Often, your absence reveals that many connections aren't built on unconditional love or mutual respect, but on convenience, power dynamics, and unspoken needs. When you break those dynamics, people don't just lose a person. They lose a support system, a point of reference, a balance they didn't even realize you were helping to maintain. So here's the question no one wants to ask. What's left of them when you're no longer there? For some, the answer is simple. They move on. They find new connections. They adapt. But for others, your departure leaves a void they don't know how to fill. Because without realizing it, your presence had become the anchor for something much bigger. Something that starts to fall apart without you. And here's the most fascinating part. Stepping away doesn't just affect them, it affects you too. But that's another story. Today, we're focusing on them, on what your departure triggers in their minds, their hearts, their lives. And believe me, the impact runs much deeper than it seems. When you step away, you don't just create change in their lives. You become a catalyst for emotions they didn't even know they had. Your absence is like a silent thunderclap. It doesn't make noise at first, but it leaves the ground shaking beneath their feet. Even if they don't say it, even if they don't admit it, something inside them starts to shift, and they can't stop it. At first, they might deny it. They'll tell themselves you're just busy, that it's temporary, that you'll come back. But deep down, they know something has changed. And that uncertainty, that unanswered why, starts to grow. Did they do something wrong? Were they too demanding? Did they fail to appreciate you enough? The questions pile up, and with them comes anxiety. But there's something even more interesting. Your departure forces them to rethink who they are. Because when you spend time with someone, your energy, your presence, becomes part of their life. So when you step away, they don't just lose you, they lose a part of themselves. And rebuilding that part isn't easy. Suddenly, they have to figure out who they are without you. And then, something almost poetic happens. They start to remember you, but not as you really were. They remember you as they need to remember you. Some will idealize you. They were so perfect, and I didn't know how to value them. Others will demonize you. They only left because they never cared. And a few, the bravest, will face the truth. Maybe I never understood what they needed. This is where things get really intriguing, because while they're wrestling with their emotions, you, from a distance, become a mystery. They wonder what you're doing, what you're thinking if you miss them. And that uncertainty is like a thread they can't stop pulling. But what really unsettles them isn't the lack of answers. It's the lack of control. Because by stepping away, you broke a pattern. And broken patterns always create chaos. Here's the irony. While they're rebuilding their world without you, you're going through your own process. Because stepping away isn't simple. It's not just about creating distance. It's an act of courage. It's looking in the mirror and saying, I need space for myself, even if it means others won't understand. And that, while necessary, can be terrifying. If you've made it this far, I know this resonates with you. Maybe you've stepped away from someone. Maybe you've felt something crumble because of your decision. Or maybe someone stepped away from you and you're trying to make sense of it. Whatever your situation, I want you to think about this. How much of your inner peace depends on others? And how much are you willing to let go to find that peace? I want you to leave a comment with this phrase. The void doesn't define me, it frees me. Write it if this message speaks to you, if you see yourself in these words. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the Cognishade. Because on this channel, we talk about the things others avoid, the topics that make us uncomfortable but transform us. If you want to keep exploring the depths of the human mind, this is your place. But don't leave yet. There's one more thing I want you to understand. Your decision to step away, while painful for some, can also be the start of their own growth. Sometimes the best way to help someone isn't by staying, but by showing them they can stand on their own. And that, even if they don't see it at first, might be the greatest gift you give them. So stay until the end, because what comes next isn't just a reflection, it's a revelation. One that could change the way you see your relationships, your decisions, and most importantly, yourself. Thanks for joining me on this thought-provoking journey today. See you soon in next video with the darkest corners and brightest revelations of human nature. Till then, take care.